Welcome to Women, Music, Power, a podcast celebrating the voices, journeys, and artistry of women in music. I'm Leah Hinchcliff.
And I'm Marianna Thielen.
And this is our love letter to the women who shaped us, the legends, the unsung heroes, the ones still carving their path.
So tune in, turn it up, and join us as we celebrate the power of women in music. We don't wield it, it's in our groove. We don't stand still, got to move. We just live it, don't have to prove. If you know, you know. If you don't, we'll show you the way. 'Cause power is in our play.
Women, music, power.
Well, hello there.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, Leah. How are you?
Good, I'm really good. Yeah.
Good.
Glad to be on the other side into a new year.
I know. It's nice.
Yeah, fresh. Feels like just a fresh new start. Lots of hope going on here for me.
Oh, good. Have you had time to relax?
Yeah, I did take some time off at the end of December, which was great. I loved it. I took a bath every day.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's so good.
How about you?
Oh, yeah. Feeling good, lighter schedule, and that's nice. I like this time of year, actually.
Me
December's so busy that it's good to.
Yeah, it's nice to have some quiet time to reflect and rest up, because last year was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Speaking of last year, we recorded all of these podcasts ahead of time. We talked to this guest, Kathryn Claire, last March.
Yes.
And so you'll hear us at the beginning of the podcast reference a show that happened last March.
Song Suffragettes.
Which actually ties into our guest that you're going to hear next week, Naomi LaViolette, which she's going to do again this year.
Right, which is very cool. I'm super excited to share this artist with people. We really got into some deep discussions about, the muse and showing up for yourself. And it was emotional and just a good reminder to really be true to yourself as an artist.
Yeah, I really appreciated what she had to say about silence. And she has a song all about that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really lovely, especially for this time of year. I think it's good to revel in some silence.
Yes.
Or something meditative and quiet. And we had a lot of fun too, because she's a kick in the pants.
She is. She is. Well, I hope that you are all going to enjoy this show. Yes. Let's welcome our next guest, Kathryn Claire.
Falling far from what felt like the top, slowing down till you come to a stop.
Good morning, Marianna.
Good morning, Leah.
Hi. It was just love seeing you last night with the Pacific Northwest song Suffragettes.
Thank you.
It was super fun.
So much fun.
Yeah,
yes.
It was such a joy to bask in all the talent of all the women in that show. It was great.
Yeah, it was very uplifting, very inspiring for me.
It was extra special because it was part of the International Women's Day festivities. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had such a lovely crowd and everyone was so good. I was just I could have just been up there watching everyone and not performing.
Yeah. And I got to hear you play the piano for the first time, which was super cool. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's
good. It'll kick me off to practice and get better. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for being there.
Yeah,
it was so good to have you and Nance there.
My pleasure.
Speaking of which,
welcome to
Women, Music, Power.
And today we are thrilled to welcome Kathryn Claire to our show.
Yeah.
Kathryn is a prolific writer and a captivating performer. committed to shining her light in the world. She's also an inspiring teacher, which I've had the experience of. She really empowered me to find my own voice, and I want to thank you for that. And as I've mentioned before, I often get called to be a side woman, and a few years ago, I was fortunate enough to receive a call from Ashley Flynn, who is one of our Portland legends, an amazing songwriter and a performer. She needed someone who could step in quickly and play a few festivals. And side women don't usually get the chance to connect with the band members or, form kind of a deep connection. But that wasn't the case when I met Kathryn. It was great. We spent a few hours driving together to the show. And I don't think we stopped talking even for a minute. There was someone else in the car who I don't think got to say 2 words, but and I just felt an immediate heart connection with her. It was so lovely. She is an exuberant performer and a very generous musician on stage. Anyone who's seen Kathryn perform can attest to her authentic performance capabilities. She is a prolific songwriter who has released full-length albums and EP and singles. She is currently working on a new album and preparing a multimedia performance piece that weaves together music, poetry, song, and dance. I am thrilled to introduce this incredible powerhouse musician to you. Let's warmly welcome Kathryn Claire.
Aw, thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. And thank you for that introduction.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear about how you two met. Because Kathryn and I just met on Thursday.
Yes.
And I had a similar feeling when she walked in and kind of immediately clicked. And as we were rehearsing, we made jokes right away and got silly. And it was like, wow.
Such a gift to work with women. I feel like having those opportunities to dive into deep conversation or being really silly and fun and just like really showing up authentically to each other is such a gift.
Yes. I'm curious, where did you get your start playing music?
Yeah, I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and I grew up in a very musical family, not a virtuosically musical family, but a very heart-centered, joyful, around music family. My mom was a public school music teacher and a piano teacher. And my grandfather, who was Dutch, actually, there's a Dutch connection there. He played the violin, and he was a dentist by trade, but loved playing the violin, especially gypsy jazz violin. And so I grew up watching and seeing him, and that was what inspired me to play the violin, which I started when I was 7.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. I feel like that just to say that music was sort of all around, and I think I also came into the world very musical. I think we either develop an interest and we have that ear. And I also think we often come into the world with this desire and this draw to music. And I feel like I've always been very musical, and I've been told that too, like just listening and singing and always singing. And, I played music throughout school, and I danced, and I was an athlete, and just did a lot of different things, and theater, but music has been sort of the thread all the way through. And when I started playing guitar in high school, that really opened up for me this ability to express through my writing and through that instrument in songwriting. And that was a big shift. And then it just has sort of been this constant and very evolving path.
Yeah, you were saying that at the show last night, that you stole your boyfriend's guitar and started writing songs.
Yeah, it was really cool. When I was in high school, I lived in Japan. My parents were both teachers, public school teachers, and they got jobs at the American school in Japan, in Tokyo. Fabulous. And so our whole family moved there when I was 15. And many of the kids at that school were American kids or international kids. And yeah, it was 94, 95 when I moved there. So my boyfriend was really into Nirvana, and I actually played with him and his band. It was the first time I ever played with a band. I played violin on the song Dumb. And it was like, that time was actually really important for me in both like learning to play the guitar, sort of learning from him how to play the guitar, and then also getting up on stage with a band with a bunch of boys.
Yeah.
Yep. Always the boys.
We've talked about that a lot on this
Right?
podcast, how we're often the only woman.
Yeah.
which is why the show we did is so wonderful, because we don't get that. We don't get to be with all women very often.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And it's a totally different experience, both on stage, but also, as Leah was saying, like in traveling and in preparation and rehearsals, like just the whole experience of working with women is different.
Yeah.
Not better or worse necessarily, just a really different experience.
How long did you live in Japan?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I really wanted to come home and graduate from my public high school in Eugene, Oregon, and just finish out that experience. So we came home. I don't have a degree in music. I have a degree in visual art, but I did a lot of things in my sort of college years, and I took quite a while to get my BA and lived in different places, Boston and New York, and just did some vagabond traveling. But I was playing music at that time always, and that was a really important time of starting to write my own songs and play at open mics. And then when I was 23, I had started playing the violin again, and I started playing a lot of fiddle music. And I ended up getting into this Irish punk band. And it led me on this path of about 7+ years of really being in Irish music and playing Irish fiddle and singing a lot of traditional songs. And that was really interesting and kind of surprising, because like I'm not of Irish descent. Yeah. I didn't grow up listening to any of that music.
Wow, that's great.
But there was something about the tunes, the Irish fiddle tunes, especially the ones in minor keys, that touched my heart so deeply. The minute I started playing them, like especially the lamentive music is just like, it gets you.
Oh, yeah. So Irish punk.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like, that's where I started.
So Irish punk, I think of the Pogues.
Yeah, it was very much. So the front man, an amazing musician, Matthew Hayward MacDonald, who I ended up falling in love with and marrying.
Okay.
Yeah, for a while.
Oh, okay.
No longer. But yeah, it was a really cool band that he had started, and he wrote a lot of original music, but very much in that vein, very much inspired by that. And yeah, so fiddle was a great element in that. And I learned a lot of traditional tunes as well, and we would sing traditional pub songs and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
The song that you played last night, the fiddle tune.
Yeah.
That was just beautiful. That seemed like it was inspired, like that was part of that journey.
Yeah, I think the fiddle tunes that I've written, after I left that relationship and that band, and we had moved to Portland, I ended up collaborating with another amazing Irish musician named Hans Araki, and he is a traditional Irish flute player, but also half Japanese, so plays shakuhachi flute. And we did a lot more in that vein of a lot of traditional tunes. I learned so many tunes from Hans, and he's an incredible singer and harmony singer. So the two of us did a lot of singing and a lot of recording and collaborating for several years. And the way that tunes sound and are created, I really internalized it during that time. And so when I left that project and I began this journey, which has really been a journey of excavating my own true authentic voice and my own true authentic vision and what I want to communicate through my music, I had so much of that in me. And so, yeah, I think when I write, I've written a ton of fiddle tunes, and I think they always come out. That one that I played last night, I call it Bjorne Stomp, but it has to me a little bit more of the Nordic Scandinavian style of fiddle, which I'm not as familiar with, but that kind of droning hard anger fiddle vibe.
You know what else you did last night that was so cool? You strummed your violin, and it was really captivating. It just created a lovely bed for what was going on with your voice and stuff. Were you going through effect?
I did. I had an octave pedal on that.
Okay.
And I normally do that with also a delay, but when I'm doing it with people singing along and impromptu people joining, I tend to not do it. But it's really cool to do it with even more effects, and it kind of just makes a bed.
Yes.
It's super cool.
Yeah, I hadn't heard a fiddle played like that before, and it was just so good.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was really cool.
normally the violinist tune G, D, A, and E. And you tune the bottom two strings up a whole step, so it's A, E, A, E. So it's super open and droney.
So do you always play with your violin tuned that way now?
No, that's a second violin.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and both of those violins were my grandfather's. And that one that I keep in that tuning is actually one that he brought from the Netherlands when he emigrated here when he was 21. And in the back of the violin, he carved his name and the date 1927.
Wow.
Which he would have been 11. I think
gives me
it's
chills.
so cool. Like
Yeah.
his name carved. First of all, I also just think it's hilarious because I'm sure he got in trouble for doing, like, if I carved my name in the back of my violin, my parents would have been like, what did you do? But it's like with this little pin and it just says J. Muller 1927. So sweet.
That's really special.
It's super special.
And you said he did like gypsy style.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He loved jazz. And we would always play like Christmas music at the holidays, he and I. And, you know, he could read music well, but his heart was really with gypsy jazz. So
Yeah.
I don't do a ton of jazz, but when I have been in scenarios where especially that kind of swing gypsy jazz comes up, that particular violin is the one I normally play is the one he had towards the end of his life. And that's when he was really playing a lot of that. And I feel like that violin will play that music. Like all of a sudden I'll just be like I'm just swinging and I'm like, what is happening? Like that music comes through that violin. It's super cool. Yeah.
I love that.
I do too.
That's cool that you're talking about it coming through because you also last night talked about your songs being that way. How did you phrase it? Feeling like you are a song catcher? Is that what you? Yeah.
Yeah. I've really gotten more clear about that in the last 10 years, probably, that's really my process. And I think obviously not all songs come through intact like that, but I do see the process as more attuning our body and our hearts and our ears and our soul to being able to receive. For me, that means I need to catch a lot of stuff. I'm really grateful for the smartphone. There's a lot I don't love about smartphones, but I love having a really good recording device in my pocket kind of at all times. Yeah. And I remember early on songwriting, before I had any way to record, like this would have been when I was in high school, a song coming to me before bed and singing it like 15 times and just hoping that I had it in the morning. I just think that's so funny. Like now we can just capture stuff all the time. Yeah. So I'm constantly catching bits of song. And that's kind of my process that I've just become comfortable with. I'm not somebody that like sits down and works and works and works the song until it's finished. Sometimes I wish I was, but it's not the nature of my process. So yeah, I capture pieces and then I come back to them and I come back to them. I catch a lot when I'm out in nature. I have a pretty devoted practice of walking and being outside and a fairly devoted practice to meditation. And so that, I think both of those are important in staying really attuned to being able to capture that.
Do you think you have like a theme that runs through your songwriting and your music?
Death and rebirth is definitely one. And more recently, I've been so curious about this idea of like what we leave behind. And that's actually a song on my new record. I've been so interested in the death of my grandparents that they had all of this ephemera. They had love letters and journals and things. And I feel that we're in this interesting transition as a species and a culture that everything has become so much more digitalized and we have things floating around in the cloud and we have ideas and thoughts. But I'm always thinking like, you know, at the end of the world when like all of our phones die and the electricity is gone and like, what are people going to find? Will they, you know, what are they going to see from what we leave behind?
Play the song, fill the page. Is this the end of a golden age? Tables turned, lessons learned. What will you leave behind?
I think I've just really been meditating on that. And then I've been going back to a lot of my old writing. I'm a very prolific poet and journal writer. I'm a writer, physical writer. So I've been reading a lot of old journals. I've been looking at a lot of old poems from like half a lifetime ago, from my early 20s. And this piece that I've been creating over the last year, this multimedia piece, really talks a lot about that and in the ways that we as artists create stuff, and then we get to go back and find what we leave behind and find parts of ourselves and what that process is like, and kind of what a gift it is to be creative. And then we make stuff, and then we get to go back and be like, whoa, 22-year-old Kathryn, whoa, look at that poem. What were you thinking? And like find ourselves through our art.
And this piece is this is the one you're going to do for Fertile Ground, right?
Am, yes.
I love the festival. I've done some musicals for it in the past. I'm glad that you're a part of it.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's so great that it's happening, and I don't know much about it, and I'm really excited to do it and take part. I created this piece when I was 22 for my thesis that was very multidisciplinary, and then I got into an Irish punk band. And I fell in love, and I got married, and I went all these different directions, right? Like for 20 years. And I have been feeling this call in my soul. I want to work that way again. That's how I want to work. That's what I really want to make. About a year and a half ago, I just was like, I've got to do this. Like, I'm starting to get resentful of every other project I say yes to, because I'm like, oh, I really want to be making this thing, but I have to do this rehearsal or I have to do this thing. And so, but also a very handy excuse, like, well, I can't make the thing that scares me and that I want to do the most, but feels the most vulnerable. So I'm just going to really say yes to everything else that keeps me busy and distracted so I don't have to do it. And I just finally was like, I got to make this. So I made a piece last year called Proof Enough. And that really was about finding this group of poems from half a lifetime ago. I had written most of them around 2021, 22. And I had just turned 44, and I thought the numbers of like, I loved that they folded in half. And so I made a piece about that. And from that, I started a new album in August. I wasn't intending to make an album, but it just like wanted to be made. And a lot of it centered around these themes. And then this piece now is sort of taking that and pulling in a lot more like pieces from the album, and a little bit more dance, a little bit more improvisational music, and some multimedia projection.
Wow.
I'm still building it. I love that Fertile Ground is like, it's a festival of new work, because I'm like, okay, we're like a month out, and I'm still kind of like not exactly sure what this is all about, but that's the process. And it's fun.
That's the great thing about that festival. You can kind of do whatever you want, right? I mean,
totally. That's what I've heard.
So when you're creating a multimedia project, you're painting, you're dancing, you're writing music, you're doing poetry. What's the process like?
I'm not doing visual art, although I have a visual aesthetic that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing that through lights and maybe some video, and even how I capture the images that I use to share it. It's like that's the visual component. For the last year, I've been renting space at this incredible place, Performance Works Northwest. And it's run by Linda Austin, who is an incredible artist and dancer, and her dance company is in residence there as well. And she offers this beautiful space for rent, and she makes it really affordable for artists, which is incredible. I mean, it's been transformative for me because I needed a place. I was working on this in my garage and looping and trying to dance and trying to make this thing, and when I found that space, it was so cool. So much of it is like improvised. I've done a lot of going in and seeing what happens, and then taking pieces of that, and then I'll go and write a little bit and sort of make a script, and then I try to do the script, and then some other happy accident happens. So it's sort of a combination of clear writing and staying really loose in it.
So really following the muse.
Totally. I don't know if you've read it, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
I love that book. It was really important for making this work because a lot of it is around staying really loose and open and curious and catching seeds just catch as many as you can because you never know which ones are going to bloom. And
Right.
yeah, it's been cool to work that
I
way.
love that. And trusting the process, I think, trusting yourself as a creative individual that the stuff that's coming out is important and worthy. To me, that's always my struggle. But I love about you how you're just like, no, this process is right. It's authentic and I have to let it happen. I have to be there while it
Absolutely.
happens.
Yes. I've been thinking a lot about the word musician, and that just like a magician like works with magic and musicians work with the muse, right? Like that's our job. Our job is to stay open when the muse wants to move through us. Our job is to find the space to do the dance or find the piece of paper to catch the song. You know, like that's our job. That's it.
Yeah.
And we get in our way so often.
Oh my gosh.
We're just like, I'm too busy. I can't go rent a dance space or what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I am a dancer. So I've been trying to approach from that perspective more. Like, I'm a musician. That means my job is to make myself available to the muse and yeah, just take that very seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of blowing my mind right now.
I know. I know. I love it. Yeah.
Totally like a different way of approaching things. It makes me feel like I'm not doing my job because I'm putting that stuff to the side.
It's very countercultural too. So many people who just kind of see like numbers and results in a certain way or a certain amount of fame or something, you know, and it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that.
No. And in a way, to shift my mind around it has been so freeing because I think the like commodification of art and the capitalism around music, we all feel it in such a big way. And we're looking at statistics and algorithms and numbers on Spotify and all of this stuff to tell us, am I a musician? Am I good enough? All of these markers. It just doesn't feel good. I end up feeling really bad about myself. And when I shifted that perspective, and part of that too, Leah, like I now teach full time. That's how I make a living. And that's been such a gift for me because it's opened up time and space to really create in a deep way where, you know, I don't have to worry about packing the house for this or, you know, like I have a little bit more flexibility in what I say yes to than when you're touring full time and trying to make a living and
chasing the gig.
chasing the hustle. Like
Yeah.
I don't really want the hustle.
Yeah.
I don't want hustle to be a part of the process because the process is like really beautiful and it kind of has to unfold in its own way. That's that like inviting the thing that wants to come through you. And then you really have to work hard to protect that.
Yeah.
I find that has been one of the hardest parts about working in this new way in the last couple years is like having to say a lot of no's. What is nice when you really feel attuned to the thing that you're making, like a podcast or I'm working on a piece, I found it easier because it was actually kind of like affirming every time I said the no and said, thank you so much for that invitation. And it sounds wonderful, but I'm working on a piece right now and I'm just clearing the space around it. Or I'm working on a podcast. And then it sounds legit, but it's like it confirms to you how important it is. Not taking that so seriously. It's your job is the muse is working through you. You're very busy right now, you know?
Right.
I think it's hard for people, and I do think that for women, it can be even harder because as a female in this culture, feeling like to make those boundaries and to say no is hard. And I have to do that too around social stuff, you know? And that's hard too, but I've been saying that a lot. Like I'd love to hang out and I'm making something right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that.
I love to see that women are stepping into this power.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
I love that.
Love that one.
Yeah.
It's still kind of mind-blowing for me though sometimes. And I'm so into being like, I'm so sorry I can't do this because, and then like long paragraph of explaining why I can't do something instead of, I love that answer. I can't meet up with you. I'm making something, period.
We're talking about creating. Tell me what about this record you're making.
Oh, I would love to.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't intending to make an album really, but I have a friend who I really wanted to work with. I had done some recording in his studio last year. And his name is Steve Drisos, and he has a recording studio called The Panther. And I had done a couple projects with him last year, and I just really loved working in that space. And I had done one project where I did a bunch of really weird sounds on my violin, and it was so fun and creative. And he was so easy to work with and be creative with that I was like, I want to work with you and I want to produce something with you at some point. I said that at the time, but I didn't think it was going to be quite so soon. But I went to Hawaii and I was gone for a week and I didn't bring anything. And I didn't have any social media. I did read a couple books, but I did a lot of walking and a lot of just quieting. And that I have learned is like so essential also for my practice, is to get really still. And this will lead very much into talking about my song Quiet Sound. But I feel like it's so noisy in the world, that the world is so noisy. It's overwhelming. And I think for artists and many artists, myself included, are very sensitive. And that's what makes us so wonderful and what makes us such great artists. But to be that sensitive in the world, it's like you either have to find ways to like protect and numb yourself, or if you're going to be really wide awake, then you have to like get really quiet and still, because otherwise I just think it's too much. So I really took that to heart when I made that decision to have a total digital detox and not work and not do anything. And on the plane ride home, I started listening through to my voice memos on my phone. And I do like to do that on flights because, like I said, I'm always catching stuff and then I forget about it. So I went through and I actually went all the way back to like 2016.
Oh, wow.
And then when I'd find something, I was like, oh, I forgot about that song, or oh, that little sketch of that. I'd put like a little star on it. And I just, for 4 or 5 hours, I just was listening through, writing notes. And I realized there were all of these little sketches and a lot of looping things I had been doing and violin stuff. The one book I also reread in Hawaii was The Creative Act. And so I was really thinking about that way of working. And when this was coming through, I was just like, okay, I got to stay really open. I've got to stay really loose in this. And I want to go into the studio. I want to make it in the moment. I am also a perfectionist and I have to really work with that. And I wanted to stay curious. I wanted to be really curious about what these songs wanted to be. And all of a sudden I was like, oh man, oh, she's coming. Like, like it was wild. It was so fun. But I was like, oh, there's an album coming. Like this thing is going to be birthed. And so I came up with like 10 of these little sketches and I gave them to Steve and told him sort of what I was thinking. But there was one that was the beginning with just this kind of strumming my violin on these chords. And I mean, the very first day of working, I just went in and laid this down. And then we would just make stuff and be like, well, what if we do this? We worked in like 4-hour chunks because of my teaching schedule. So I would only go in maybe once a week for 4 hours. That constraint was really cool for us because every time it was about 4 hours to sort of make a song. And it might not be totally finished, but the whole like bones of the song were there in that 4-hour period. And I got to play pretty much all of the instruments. We had my dear friend and colleague, Alan Hunter. He came in and did some bass, and another great guitar player, Todd Wright, who is a friend of Steve's, and I love his playing. He came in and we called it sonic painting, but he just did some beautiful washes on a couple things. Everything else, Steve and I did. So Steve is a drummer and a guitar player. I played some guitar, tons of strings. I built out all of these symphonic string parts, but a lot of looped pizzicato-y stuff. And then we did a lot of really weird sounds on my violin. I sang through the microphone of my violin on some stuff. Yeah. It was like playing and letting each song tell me what it wanted to be. And then I often, like, we would have the bones of the songs, but the lyrics didn't seem clear. And then I would go out and I'd have my morning walks and I'd listen to sort of what we had made. And then over time, I found a lot of the lyrics and they ended up becoming very thematically about like, what do we leave behind? How do we meet our our past selves? How do we lose ourselves? That was a big one for me in this work, is like the ways that we lose track of ourselves and the ways that we come back to it. And that song I played last night, The Will of the Flower, is really about that. The first line is like, I've gone away 10,000 times. And I feel like I have. I'm so grateful for a really deep connection to the muse right now. But that, you know, I've had so many times where I've turned it's going to make me cry, like where I've turned my back on myself and I've turned on the muse wanting to move through me. And I've been like, I can't do that, or I'm not available, or I'm shut off right now, or whatever, or whatever it is. So I think like I think that's another theme that has happened over a lot of songs. I've thought about that, but this record, I got into that as a theme. And really though, the whole experience was like kind of falling in love with myself and my process. Like I got to do that through the record and just have it be so joyful. And like at the end of every session, Steve and I would just be like, ooh, what did we make? And we'd listen back and it felt like I got to play. And you know, we say we play music.
Right.
And I'm like, we played. It was so cool. So
that is just finding the art through play.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so last night when I heard you, I've never heard you play guitar.
Oh,
I loved the looping stuff you were doing. Yeah. That was so cool.
Thank you.
It was just really lovely.
Thank you.
And then Naomi played some piano.
Oh, I know.
That was
just
so
perfect.
tasty.
Yeah.
At rehearsal, Naomi just like jumped right in, and it was so cool to watch them do it for the first time together. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
Whoa, it was just incredible.
She is so amazing and so fun to work with somebody like that just has that like right away ability to jump in.
Yeah. I love that about people who like us who have a lot of experience playing music now.
Yes.
That you can come into it and you're not like, I don't know how to do this, but I do know how to do this. What I'm going to find out is how do I do this with you? It's really magical.
Yeah,
It is.
And I loved what you were saying about how much noise there is in the world. Yes. And that kind of brings us to your song, If We Can Play Quiet Sound. A lot of the stuff that I've been writing lately too has been on this theme of what we're paying attention to versus what we should be listening to. And I've been thinking a lot about that, whether that means when you go out and see music or experience art or in the digital world or even in conversation, you know? So when I heard your song, I was like, I feel this so much. It's so hard to just find that quiet. The song is a gift because it's giving that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think of your song that you played last night about everyone looking up at the moon. And I loved that image of being in Edinburgh and like walking out into the street and it's noisy and then it's crowded and humanity there. And then like people just start looking up and like the quiet even that comes in shared appreciation and shared presence. I love it when you experience humans all going like, the moon.
Yeah, totally.
Should we listen to a song?
Oh, yes.
Yay.
All right. Here is Quiet Sound.
Falling far from what felt like the top, slowing down till you come to a stop. In the walls of this room you found what was always there, a quiet sound. Sing to me like I'm an inch from you. It's a delicate thing when it comes from a place that's true. No need to push to let it out. You can whisper, you don't need to shout.
about the creation of this one.
Yeah. So I wrote this like late March, early April of 2020. So right at the very beginning of the pandemic. And this also was sort of like I captured the seeds of this song, little bits and pieces of it, and then put it together over time. It had that first line, falling far from what felt like the top. And it was a totally different feel. All of a sudden I was back in the pandemic and just like remembering, because we lived in this apartment when the pandemic started. We were on the 4th floor. We didn't have a balcony or anything. And we had all these big windows that like looked out into this courtyard across to everybody else's apartment. I just remember like spending so much time in our room that also was my office and just like watching, I mean, not in a weird way, but just like all of the neighbors, everybody was home all the time. And like everybody was just kind of there. And yeah, there was such a like slowing down and a quieting in that time that I had just put out this album, Eastern Bound for Glory. I did a huge album release at the Old Church on February 8th. And then I had toured a little bit, and I had plans to tour it for the rest of that year. And I just had been sitting there like watching tour after tour was starting. Like by May, we were like, oh, this is real. And I'm not going to be going over to Europe in the fall. Like that's not going to happen. And so it was heartbreaking on one hand, but I will also say that there was this amazing sense of relief because I had been pushing and hustling and working so hard for so long, like 10 years of like touring my ass off and like really doing music in that way full time. And I was tired, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just like we had this invitation to, I don't know, bake bread and go on walks, learn a new instrument. Like, okay, that sounds cool. It was so dualistic in like this heartbreak and like fear and sadness, and then also this sense of relief.
What a comment it is on our culture that it takes a major disaster for us to all take a break. Like we shouldn't have to have 1 million people die of a thing for us to like shut down and like slow down.
No, I agree. I think there was like a collective quieting that I think I was really feeling in writing that song. Like I remember hearing about the waters getting blue in certain parts of the world, and like the planes weren't flying, and you know, there was just like all of a sudden the earth took like a breath or something, and there was just this quieting for everyone. I hoped also that we would like recalibrate, and it's been very hard to do that in the culture. It feels noisier now in some ways. And I think part of that is because during that time, in some ways to our benefit and some ways to our detriment, we really went online. You know, so much went online, and us as musicians, you know, we really got active on our YouTube channels, and we really got active on social media, and we were live streaming, and we were doing all of this stuff online to keep our livings going and to keep sharing our art. But consequently, I think there feels like there's a barrage of just content that I don't remember feeling as intensely prior to the pandemic.
Absolutely.
There is so much out there all the time. I can't keep up with it. I don't want to.
No, you don't. And it's actually hard in this time in the use of social media or video. I mean, we use it as artists, but I have some conflict because I also don't want to be on my screen as much. And so it's very hard to say like, please watch my video, please look at my content, please look, watch, when I'm actually like, no, just go outside and sit under a tree and play with your dog or whatever. So I think a lot of us are feeling that discomfort. It's like,
and to have like your music kind of alongside of all these other things that people are just going to flip right through. Oh, here's a really amazing, beautiful song. Oh, here's a cute dog. Oh, here's a weight loss commercial. Ugh.
Totally. Like, I know that our brains are not built to take in this much information. And this guy a while back used this term acoustic terrorism, which I thought was the funniest thing. We didn't have a car for a while. I used to ride the bus a lot. And I was struck by how often like people are just like talking on FaceTime, listening to music without headphones. And I hate the sound of music through just the speakers of our phones. And there's all this extra actual sound around us. And then music has become something that is often this background. Yeah. Right? So we always have to have some music on. We always have to have the perfect playlist for this event or this moment. But it's just in the background while everyone's talking and doing stuff. And I'm like, I love quiet. I crave it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find. I worked with a publicist for that record I put out in 2020. And she had listened to early parts of the recording. It hadn't been mixed. And there were a couple of places where she had invited me to sing a little differently because I come from a background of like singing, you know, acoustically and like projecting your voice. And I can have a really full, loud projecting voice. And she said, like, there's a couple places where I want you to sing like you're singing like an inch from someone's ear. And I want you to just see what that's like. And nobody had given me an invitation like that to explore my voice in that way. And especially in the studio, there's so much you can do. And so I went back and I tracked several parts of that album with that in mind. And there was something so delicate and vulnerable about experimenting with singing that way. And so that also felt like that quieting of you can whisper, you don't have to shout, like you can quiet all of it. You can be quiet.
Yeah. And how powerful that is. It gives you room to think and to be and to feel what you're actually saying.
And if you think about singing like an inch from somebody's ear, like it's very vulnerable and very intimate.
Quiet sound, and you find a quiet sound.
So you mentioned when we first started that you lived in Japan.
I did.
And your grandfather, your family is from, where did you say?
From the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So I know you travel there.
Yeah.
As far as traveling, doing your touring and stuff like that, tell me about that. Because you are one of the only people I know that does that consistently.
Yeah.
And you obviously have a following, an international following.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think part of living in Japan at that formative time of my life. And because my grandfather was Dutch, we went back to the Netherlands. My dad was a Japanese teacher, so I went to Japan at 9 for the first time. So I grew up traveling and seeing the world with my family and just feeling like, oh, communities exist all over the planet. And, you know, I love that my parents gave me that experience. So as far as like Japan goes, when I was working with Hans Araki, who I mentioned, whose father is Japanese, and we did some touring together in Japan, and I met a lot of people through that. When I went back to tour with him, I reached out to my old school and I developed this songwriting workshop that I do in elementary schools. And so I started to sort of make this connection to being able to teach over there as well, and ended up doing quite a bit of teaching in international schools in Japan. I was supposed to actually do a tour with Hans that got canceled, but I kept our one show in Amsterdam because I still had family there. And the woman who booked it, I said, I'm going to be coming solo. I'd still love to play. And she said, I'll book you with this duo. They're called the Lasses. It's 2 women. It was like the minute I met those two, it was this instant, beautiful chemistry. We shared this bill. We played late into the night. Like it was just so beautiful. And we ended up staying in touch. I brought them over to the US like the following spring, and then I would go back and we started this sort of tour exchange. And then I also started touring with Alan Hunter, who also has spent a lot of time in Europe touring. So we sort of together built these funny, interesting tours, and all of them are like built by me or by my friends. And it's all this fun, like, well, I know somebody in this small town and they put on concerts. And so it's very like organic. I've been able to come into small communities. People have put on shows or small little art centers. And I love that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
You've also toured in India.
Yes. In India, I've toured in like France and Belgium and Germany and then the Netherlands. I like being in control of my visual aesthetic. It's really important to me. And it's interesting. I was thinking about control this morning before I came here. I'm aware of areas where control is somewhat problematic for me and I want to let go of control. And there's a lot of areas I find in myself where I'm like, yeah, I can let go of that. I'm trying to control this situation. But I also really love it about myself. And I love being in control as a woman.
Yeah.
And I really feel like in my 40s now, I am really owning that I have a vision, music, sound wise, with the people I play with. I have an aesthetic. It's really clear to me. And sometimes I'm like, I should just hire a graphic designer. I should hire out. And then I'm like, no, I kind of like to do that. It's a part of the whole creative process for me.
Yeah.
And so like I'm in a period of creative change at the moment. And, you know, even when you think about like your album cover or your promo photos or your videos, like there was an aesthetic and a vibe and a feel to a whole group of things that I put out that revolved around a different time of my life and playing. And as we evolve as artists and creatives, like I do think it's important. We watch a lot, we see a lot, we take in a lot of art through our eyes.
Yeah.
And so I do actually think that's an important aspect of it to consider. And I also have a little bit of synesthesia, which is that like seeing color with music. And I really often see a lot of color related to stuff. This album I just made it's really golden. There's a ton of golds, but there's also a lot of blues. And then there's these really vibrant colors. And I see the colors in that album. And so as I'm thinking about the album cover and the promo photos and everything that goes into it, I want it to feel like you're experiencing this whole thing. It's like a multi-sensory experience.
Wow.
Do you have any specific examples of like, is it like note by note or in like a key that has a certain color? Or?
I have, it's kind of notes and keys. Like A is red, C is yellow, D is blue, G is green, F is purple. When I'm like playing notes or talking about notes, I'm actually seeing those colors. But I also had a friend once ask me like, what color do you see for this? And I was like, you see colors too? I do see colors. And so I also see colors for days of the week. And I've always had that. And certain letters have colors.
Letters. Whoa.
Yeah. Not as strongly. The music one is really like, so when I'm in the key of A, it's always red.
Just in your mind, or
red
it
is just
surrounds
like
you?
It's like not that, it's just like there.
Wow.
I don't know, I can't
Huh.
describe it really in that it's just like that's the color. Not everything isn't like B. I'm like, what, the key of B? And maybe that's because like I just don't play in B as much, but I'm like, what color is B? I don't really have a strong color for that.
This is so cool.
Amazing.
I don't think I've ever actually really gotten to talk about this, but I did listen to this podcast. And it was a music teacher's podcast. And the woman was saying like 1 in 10 people have synesthesia.
That's a lot more
That's
than
a lot.
A lot more.
Yeah.
I think that was I'm pretty sure it was like, I was surprised.
Yeah.
And so she was saying it's important with our students to just ask. And she was like, and if they don't have it, they're going to be like, no. I mean, it'll be like a no-brainer, like color with music. No. So I did that for a while and had this 13-year-old guitar player girl. And I was just like, do you ever see color with music or notes? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, really? Like notes? Like, what is D? And she was like, it's kind of a light green. And she just started doing what I just did. And I was like, oh, June, you have synesthesia. So cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The only experience I've ever had with that I can remember is when I was a kid and I learned the chord G7 on the guitar, and it tasted like 7-Up when I played the G7 chord.
What?
And that's the only chord that I've ever had that experience with. I still get that when I play G7. It's one of my special chords, so I try to not play it all the time because it's just like This secret little thing
And
I
you
have with it.
you still taste that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a form of, is synesthesia like just with color? Or I think it's like senses.
Can taste be? Oh, I don't know. I've never heard that before. Wow.
I wish I had it with other chords, but that's the only one. And it just is like a special relationship I have with it.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk about another song.
Okay.
Before we
before
wind
we
up.
okay. Should we do Will of the Flower?
Yeah,
because
let's
it's
do
sort of
that
more
one.
in line with what we've been talking about a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I also love that, like, I'm thinking about you talking about catching songs and having like the muse, but then also balancing that with your sense of control.
Yeah.
Like there's a time to be open, and then there's also a time to like, I mean, you can't just like catch practicing, like, you know, or you can't just like catch skills. It's like along with sort of this open and sort of universal thing that we're catching, we also do have to show up and like do the work and
Absolutely.
like have control. And so I just like that you've talked about both of those things.
I love that you reflect it back that way, because I think that is the balance, because practice is so important. And I feel like I've really been diving into my practices, you know, walking and meditation and writing, and then practicing the violin and practicing the piano, practicing the voice, practice. And when I'm in that space, I'm in this like, it's a discipline.
Yeah.
You know, that's the refining the vessel in order to receive. So it's such an interesting balance.
Yeah.
Because if you're just like lying around catching the muse.
Right.
Like, I don't know, man. That's not really my vibe either.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Let's listen.
Will of the Flower.
I've gone away 10,000 times. You're always there when I change my mind. Even when the dark swallows up the day, somewhere deep below you stay. The roots are wide, though the bloom is small. From far away, it isn't much at all. Pretend it's gone, there's a price to pay every time I walk away.
All right, so that was Will of the Flower, which I feel like I've gotten to hear it so much lately because I heard it at rehearsal at the show, and I've listened to the recording a number of times. And every time I hear it, I hear a different part of it. Like we were just talking about the bass line, and how it's kind of a tango.
Oh,
and
it's so beautiful.
Yes.
I love that. That song, the story a little bit is that I was on tour with the Lasses, this duo in the Netherlands, and we were out in this little community center show, and that melody, the da 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 da, was coming, like, and we were sound checking, and I just, sometimes when it happens, you're just like, oh God, it's coming. So it's like, we got done and I was like, I'll be right back. And I just ran backstage, found like a quiet place, and I just caught that on my phone, that little bit of that melody. And so that was like the basis. Then the lyrics really came. I think I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, that idea of turning from ourselves and losing ourselves. You know, that can take many different forms, and, you know, depression and anxiety and all of that, or being busy or being afraid or whatever those things are. But I see that song as just this like little flower at the bottom of like a hole with just a little bit of light, and like the flower always wants to find the light.
I like how you wrote about it, that how we lose track of ourselves, but we come back to ourselves through the creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that like we are innately as humans, we're really creative.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the ways that we're cooler than the robots. You know, like that that is truly one of the gifts of being human, is how creative we get to be. And I do really feel like everybody is creative in their own ways, and everyone has that blooming and that potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what else should we talk about?
Gosh, I feel like we covered so many amazing bases that I didn't know we were going to go to. So thank you so much for going there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your website is
KathrynClaireMusic.com. KathrynClaire.
Perfect.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to Women, Music, Power.
I love it. Thank you. Yay.
Thanks, Kathryn.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for doing this and for really holding the space for these kind of conversations to happen.
All right. Well, that was Kathryn. Wow.
Wow.
That's
I
incredible.
am completely in love with her.
Yes, same.
I love her heart. Yeah. She just exudes joy, and I know that there's a lot of struggle and stuff that goes into being a musician and an artist, but she seems to still be in that place of light, and it just feels so good.
It's cool that we both had a similar story with when we first met her, that we just kind of clicked with her.
Yeah.
Her way in the world must just be kind of to see people really clearly when she meets them, because we both felt like that when we met her.
She really does shine bright, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I loved all the things she was talking about, just showing up for yourself, showing up for the muse. And she's just so dedicated to being her true artist self in the world. And it just was very cool to be around somebody that with that much dedication to their art.
Shortly after this interview, we went and saw her show. You and Nance and Reese and I all went. It was an incredible show.
It was.
She was dancing, she was singing, she was projecting things, and it was
Playing
just
the violin.
Yeah.
And having the audience participate, which was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. It made me cry.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so thankful to get to know Kathryn.
Me too. One of the things that I was thinking about when we were chatting with her, she was talking about one of the producers wanting her to get closer to the microphone, like you're singing into someone's ear, and how finding that different part of her voice was really meaningful to her. And it was making me think of when we were talking to Rachel, and she was talking about that same thing of finding your power and your softness.
That's true. Yeah. Good connection there.
It seems to be an interesting thread of our guests finding their voice, not just from that hardness and toughness, but really going into their soft places.
And a very feminine characteristic.
To find out more about Kathryn,
go to her website, KathrynClaire.com, and we will link to that in the description.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Yes, thank you, Leah.
Yeah. Women Music Power is produced by
Marianna and Leah.
It is edited by
Marianna and Leah.
The theme song is by
Marianna and Leah.
The conceptualization is by
Marianna and Leah.
Executive producer, Dr. Nancy Breaux. And mastered by
Allison Castonguay
at Sound Travels.
Thanks, Allison.
Check out our website at
WomenMusicPowerPod.com.